Shalom, this is Levi Shore. Welcome back to Swing Torah. Okay, so we're continuing today with the exciting story of Rabbeinu Gershom, Meor HaGolah. Rabbeinu Gershom, The Light of the Exile by Dr. Marcus Lehman. So we're going to start with chapter 2 today. Okay, so a cloud of gray melancholy settled over the prosperous household of Rabbi Gershom. Each passing day found Rabbi Gershom more and more depressed, and his wife Devorah more and more embittered. Devorah knew well the source of Rabbi Gershom's anguish and regarded herself as the cause of it all. "Why do we toil day and night?" Gershom would often ask. "Who will benefit by all our wealth? There is no one to inherit our riches. My fame in the city, my esteem in the emperor's court, everything will die with me." Rabbi Gershom's words pierced Devorah's heart with arrows of pain. She knew no respite from the self-reproach that haunted her day and night. When Rabbi Gershom returned from his goldsmithy in the evening, it was his habit to take refuge from his sorrow behind the doors of his library, his head bent low over a Gemara. One evening, however, Rabbi Gershom's heart, seared with pain, could not find solace in his beloved Talmud. The hot tears flowed from his eyes while he besought Hashem with a heart-rending prayer for his child. Although Gershom believed that no one had heard his prayer except those divine ears for whom it was intended, he was sadly mistaken. Devorah, standing on the other side of the threshold, had heard every syllable her husband had so fervently uttered. Without a moment's hesitation, she opened the library door and approached Rabbi Gershom. "My beloved husband," began Devorah, "my heart is wrenched with pain to see you weighed down with a load of heavy sorrow. And knowing that I alone bear the responsibility for your grief, I am doubly smitten with the pangs of remorse. But let us not despair. There may be hope for us yet. Let us take an example from our holy avos and imachos, our fathers and mothers. Another wife will perhaps bear you a child. Who knows, perhaps I, like our holy imachos, our holy mothers, will profit by it." Gershom was struck speechless at Devorah's words. He struggled to find the words to express not only his astonishment, but his boundless admiration of her selflessness. "Never before have I encountered such a pure, selfless heart. But for your sake, as well as my own, I cannot accept such a sacrifice from you. Do you remember what Hagar did to Sarah after she became Abraham's wife? Have no fear, my dear husband. My sacrifice will be complete and perfect. I shall remain as true to you as I have always been. My affection for you will not waver. My only hope is that she will be truly worthy of your affection, and that she bring an end quickly to your sad days of childlessness. An angel dwells somewhere within you. Such goodness is surely superhuman. How I long for a child now, if only to prevent a stranger from coming between us. A child born by you would make me unquestionably the happiest man in the world. Let us not be hasty. Let us wait and pray a little longer. Perhaps Hashem will have mercy on us this time." But the days of waiting were of no avail. The days stretched to months, the months to a year. More riches, more honor flowed into Rabbi Gershom's home, but the blessing of children evaded their household. Menachem, a pious, wealthy Jew, was a merchant who dwelt in Constantinople. He often had business dealings with Rabbi Gershom, from where he purchased silver and golden vessels, reselling them to clients at a considerable profit to himself. Menachem's wife had passed away while still very young, leaving in Menachem's hands a consolation, a daughter called Melita. On this daughter, Menachem showered all his love, all his affection, and all his fortune. No request of hers was ever denied. Her slightest wish was fulfilled. No wonder then that Melita grew up to be a pampered, arrogant young girl. Her remarkable beauty, too, was no great help in instilling a sense of duty in her overindulgent nature. Menachem, blinded by fatherly love, cannot see his daughter growing into a vain, selfless creature, and failed to give her a proper education or upbringing. Nor did he impose upon her the discipline that was so sadly lacking in her training. She prided herself on her beauty, but had but one goal in life, to nurture and enhance it. "I was born to please the eye," Melita told herself, and she spent her days in idleness, preening herself before her mirror. One day Melita sat before her window, watching the passers-by, when a lieutenant of the emperor's guard rode by on his handsome Arabian steed. Quite at random, his glance fell on the lovely girl in the window. Struck by Melita's dazzling beauty, the lieutenant pulled in his reins and brought his steed to a standstill before Melita, saying, "Fair goddess, if you are sent from on high to our earthly abode, remain where you are a little while longer, that I may feast my eyes on your beauty. And if you are of human flesh and blood, tell me who your father is, that I may ask your hand in marriage." Melita had never heard words of such a kind addressed to her before, and she started up in fright and fled to the garden that lay behind the house. Michael, for that was the lieutenant's name, was not in the least abashed by Melita's flight. Lightly he dismounted his steed and clambered with ease over the fence that enclosed the garden. With sublime self-assurance that closely resembled insolence, he approached Melita. "What is your name, lovely goddess?" he asked. "Melita," she replied with a tremor. "And who is your father?" "Menachem, the gold merchant." "Menachem? A Jew?" A frown crossed his brow, but Michael immediately thrust from him the unpleasant thought that had provoked it. "No matter. I will not permit it to stand in my way. I will take you from your father's house and set you in a palace that will do justice to a beauty as rare as yours." Then, realizing that he had not yet revealed his identity to Melita, he interrupted his extravagant plans with a low bow and said, "Now let me present myself properly. I am Michael of Paphlagonian, lieutenant of the emperor's guard and nephew to Johann, the king's favorite minister." Melita remained silent, and the lieutenant added hastily, "Not a moment shall be lost in acquainting him with my love for you. I will make him understand that I have chosen you, and only you, for my bride. Naturally, you will have to convert to our faith." Melita's heart quivered with 1,000 novel sensations. Delight filled her self-centered heart as she envisaged the bright future that awaited her as Michael's wife. She saw the doors of the imperial palace open to her as familiarly as the door of her father's house. Her hands held an invitation to every ball. To every royal festivity she danced with the greatest rulers. Her closets were hung with countless gowns of purest silks. Melita, carried away by the spectacles that flashed through her brain, hesitated no longer to respond to Michael's avowals of everlasting love. Johann had, however, other plans for his young nephew. Basil the emperor was unmarried, and he had often expressed in the presence of his intimate friends the wish to remain single. His brother Constantine VIII was the father of 2 daughters. His eldest daughter Zay, the crown princess, was betrothed. The crafty Johann had summoned his nephew Michael to Constantinople in the hope that the handsome youth would be able to entice the frivolous princess from her fiancé. Perhaps Michael would one day wear the crown of Greece, and he, Johann, would be the real behind-the-scenes ruler of Byzance. Johann was not deterred by the fact that Zay's hand was already promised in marriage to someone else, and that by the time she would become empress, she would already be wed. It was no rarity in the history of Byzance for an emperor or empress to condemn his or her spouse to death or imprisonment in a dungeon in favor of a preferred rival. Thus it was not difficult to understand the consternation with which Johann heard Michael's request. "Are you out of your mind, you foolish boy?" he cried, flaring up with terrible anger. "Have I brought you to Constantinople and secured for you the favors of the court to enable you to marry a vile Jewess and to cover me with disgrace? Do you want to blacken the honor of our noble family? I warn you now, once and for all time, if you dare set foot on her threshold, it will mean the end of you. I will expel you from my house, and you will once more become the worthless nonentity you have been before I took you under my wing. And do not be so rash as to think you can deceive me. I have faithful spies in every quarter of the city. Your every step will be watched. I will know immediately of any attempt to visit your Jewess." Michael received his uncle's outburst in silence, not daring to reply. He knew well his uncle's iron will that would bend or yield to no one. Johann's tone quickly changed to one of affability and friendship. In glowing colors he painted the brilliant future that awaited Michael as the empress's husband. So adroitly did Johann play upon Michael's mind that he succeeded in extorting from him a promise never to visit Melita again. Days passed, then weeks, and still no visit from Michael. Melita burned with impatience. But as the weeks passed and whole months went by, she realized that it had all been a futile dream. A short time passed and Melita abandoned all hope of ever seeing Michael again, and before long, she completely forgot about him. At the same time, Devorah, after long hours of wearing persuasion, finally prevailed upon Rabbi Gershom to consent to her plan. But the choice of a fitting wife, he insisted, must rest with her. After a prolonged futile search for a woman worthy of Rabbi Gershom, the disheartened Devorah perceived the lovely Melita in her father's company. At last, she happily thought to herself, I have found a woman who will grace our household with beauty and goodness. Devorah lost no time in approaching Menachem with an offer from Rabbi Gershom for Melita's hand in marriage. Great was Menachem's joy at Devorah's proposal, and quick was he to assent to it. Not only did he consider the match a highly auspicious one as far as Melita was concerned, but he considered it a great honor to himself to have the learned, famed Gershom for a son-in-law. Rabbi Gershom treated Melita with deference and affection, indulging her every wish and whim. And Melita, who did naught but array herself in fine gowns and played the princess, was quite content with her lot. Only a short time passed before Devorah recognized the true character that lay behind the mask of Melita's beauty. She saw only too plainly the extent of her sad mistake, for she discerned in Melita a woman of low moral standards, of little breeding, who prided herself on a beauty that was only skin deep. Silently, bitterly, she reproached herself for having led her beloved husband into the black pit of Melita's evil heart, but she must keep silent. Okay, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll be back again soon on Swing Torah for Chapter 3 of Rabbeinu Gershom, or HaGolah. Rabbeinu Gershom, the light of the exile.